Okay, yeah, thank you all for coming. I'll
Hold on.
want to
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Blackletter Brunch. Today is the 27th of July, and today's presenter is Helene Jenssen, Norwegian calligrapher. Helene Jenssen uh, entered a book at Kalligraphia, uh, San Francisco Public, well, Friends of Calligraphy's uh, uh, calligraphy exhibit, and it got a lot of compliments. And she will talk about her creative process and the idea behind her piece. After the calligraphy exhibit is over, her piece will go to the Harrison Collection, which is part of the San Francisco Public Library's Book Arts and Special Collections Department. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area this summer, you might want to take a look at the calligraphy exhibit. It's on the 6th floor of the San Francisco Public Library main branch on Larkin Street in San Francisco. And I'm going to let Helena talk a little bit more about her piece. And thank you very much, Helena, for joining us today and giving this presentation.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I'm so pleased and thrilled with all the feedback I got on the little book that I sent off to the exhibition. So I'm happy to share some background knowledge with you. Let's see now. So can you all see my presentation all right?
Yes, I see the full screen presentation.
And I see heads nodding, so it should be fine then. Yeah, the Book of Random Dante. It was created for the Kalligraphia 2025 exhibition. And if it hadn't been for the Kalligraphia 2025 exhibition and also an exhibition back in 2022 in Belgium, I'm not sure this book would have happened at all, but well, you never know. But those are the sort of two starting points for this project. When I was invited to the exhibition back in 2022, actually the invitation came in 2021. It was an exhibition in Westerlo in Belgium, and what they asked for was that one piece would celebrate Dante Alighieri, and that was kind of that was the first starting point, the project that kicked the whole background for this book off. So when I got this invitation to the exhibition in Belgium, I decided I found the question for works or texts by Dante exciting, and it inspired me to reread Dante again. I had read it way back in the 90s. I think I read it for the first time sort of properly just after I finished university, because one of the girls I shared a studio with, she was really, really into it. So she talked about different passages all the time, and that really inspired me to reread it. So for the exhibition in Belgium, I went on as I call it, a book safari in my bookshelves and found my copy of Dante. And fun fact, it's a photograph of it, and it's the calligrapher Julia Vance who's actually made the calligraphy on the cover of it. It's also a book written, well, this translation is in Norwegian, but it's not in sort of the regular Norwegian, it's in what we call New Norwegian, which is a version of Norwegian invented in the 1800s to be more similar to different dialects in the southeastern parts of Norway, and also perhaps more true to the original Norwegian. But yeah, so it's slightly different to the Norwegian I speak regularly. And also written slightly differently, but it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful language to use when it comes to literature, poems, and yeah, things like that. So what I did, I reread Dante, and I also had an English copy because I wanted the text to end up in English. It's and the reason was English has a different texture when you write it to Norwegian, and also because this was a piece that was going to be exhibited in an exhibition with an international audience. I thought maybe English is a better language to work in. So I had an English copy at hand as well. I made notes as I read it, and this time when I reread it, I read it in a different way than the first time I read it. I remember the first time I read it, I think it was the first time I read a book really slowly, because there is so much information that you, for me at least, I read sort of short passages and then took a break to sort of think about what I had actually read and what it actually meant. And this time, when rereading it, I kind of did the same thing, slow reading, but this time I was also making notes, trying to spot sentences and sequences I thought sort of resonated with what I wanted to say. So these two photographs they're from my notebook with notes from different lines, and the one to the right is actually the words I ended up choosing. And I assume most of you know Dante. If you don't, he was born in what is now Italy, in Florence, in 1265, and died in 1321 in Ravenna. And he was a poet, writer, philosopher, and one of the things he did that was really, really important to Italian literature was that he wrote in his Tuscan dialect instead of Latin, which was the most sort of common language to use at his time. He chose to write in his Tuscan dialect instead. So these are the words I ended up with using. So this is not one passage from Dante, they're taken from several different places throughout the book. And this was the first piece from the exhibition in Belgium. And I think you've all seen this before. And ever since my days at university at Roehampton studying calligraphy, I've been fascinated by the rhythm and the line of writing, and also the in-betweens, the negative spaces that creates the letter shapes and the words. And it's kind of the same thing you do when you draw. You look at the negative spaces to get the proportions right. So I don't remember exactly why, but I thought that this would be appropriate for this piece, because the text in the Divine Comedy it's kind of obscure in a way. You understand it, but there are also so many layers, and it's not always clear when you look at it the first time round. And I thought, well, if you have to look for the words, that sort of resonates more with what I want to say, instead of having them sort of really, really clear and readable at once. So anyway, I like to work in series and experiment with different versions when when I have a text and a motif. So I've made several different versions of this text and this motif. These are some dry point prints, different colors. And then when the invitation to the Kalligraphia exhibition arrived, I thought, why not make a book? I mean, usually it's not a problem to send off framed pieces or, but it's easier to send something half the world around that isn't too big. And also, I noticed Andrea was in the audience, and we talked about this, and she was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I also made a book, and of course, Andrea's book was already finished and done and sent before I'd even started this. So, and I thought, okay, so a book should be fine. That should be a proper, possible project to finish and send off to this exhibition. Um, this is from my studio in Oslo, where I usually work. And very often I misjudge a little bit how long it takes for a project to finish. I I was thinking a small book wouldn't take me that long, but literally it took me forever. I was working early and late, and the thing is, when you start working, you probably recognize this before you know it. It's 4 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you actually have to sleep a couple of hours before you have to get into work or, do a different project. And this is one of those projects. Um, so I can say my idea of making a small book that wouldn't take me too long, and I would pop it in the post and it would be there, well ahead, never happened. Eventually, I did make it, but it was sent off with FedEx Express 2 days before deadline. But I did make it. Why is it not responding? Like that. In the beginning of this book project, I started out sort of thinking how I wanted the pages to be and started out drawing the shapes that were going to be on all the pages. And when I started drawing, I realized will have to make some sort of template because this will take too long. And because I was working on black paper, I couldn't really put that on top of a light table and see through it. So I decided to make a stencil. I can't tell you what this stencil paper is. It's yellow and thick and coated and really easy to cut in and durable, but I bought it way back in the 90s and I haven't been able to find it again, so I don't know. But it works really well. So I started cutting out a stencil so that it would be easier to recreate the same shapes on the different book pages. And this is, I mean, I could have sent this off to get laser cut somewhere, but I just decided that by the time I had made a digital file and sent it off to someone to laser cut it for me, as I don't have a laser cutting machine myself, I would probably have finished cutting it anyway, so I just cut it by hand. And it's one of those things that I really enjoy doing anyway. And you can sit there in your studio and you can listen to the radio or a book or a documentary or whatever, and it's just really relaxing. Um, so when I was done cutting, it was, of course, I mean, and I had already folded all the pages, and it was deciding how to build the layout. And I must admit, I didn't really sort of spend too much time pre-planning. I kind of went by intuition and deciding as I went along on how I wanted the pages to look. So this isn't sort of, I didn't spend hours planning how this layout was going to look. I kind of just started and then one page led to the next page and then kind of sort of just fell into place by itself. Um, I also made most of the cutouts before I started adding colors. Um, some cutouts were added after the colors because I saw that, okay, it would actually look better if I cut out this little shape as well, or I made a few small adjustments, but for the most of it, most of the cutouts were made before adding text or adding color. And adding color, I must say, takes absolutely forever. I always think this is going to be really, really fast, and it isn't. But I love doing it. And again, it's really when you start, it's really hard to stop. You kind of think, oh, just one more, just one more. And sometimes you look at the time and you think, I have to go now. And then you think, no, but just one more. And all of a sudden you've been there for another 3 or 4 hours. Um, and of course, before starting to sort of paint and add all the colors in the book, I decided on the color palette. And I went with Coliro colors for several reasons. I wanted the colors to, well, actually, I really, really like how these colors pop on dark paper. Um, and they behave pretty much like gouache. It's really easy to make it flow well in the pen. And I also wanted that little sort of sparkle in the color uh, for this book project. So, and I kind of like to set out some rules before I start a project. So instead of choosing all the colors, I make a selection and I stick to them. So this is the selection I used in the book. And I must add, it's also really easy to travel with them. If you do as I do, I travel back and forth between two places. So it's easy to just pop them in your bag and go. Um, yeah, so I started adding color. I didn't want to add all the color because I thought it takes quite, it takes time to add all the color. And if something went wrong when adding the writing, it would be a real bummer. So I just thought maybe I should just add the writing before I spend days and days and days adding, all the little details. So I sort of added some of the color and then I added the writing. And lucky for me, the text actually added up. So if I wrote it twice, so you could read the book from the beginning, or you could read the book from the back towards the beginning, and they sort of meet in the middle. And this is also something I don't know whether it's luck or if it's just because of experience, but it just I made one attempt and it just added up. I always also really like how the cutouts, how when you look in the book, you can see sort of through the cutouts and you can have a sort of a glimpse of what's going to happen on the next page or the previous page. And I kind of feels that it reflects the text somehow and it reflects life. It's not always that clear what lies ahead of you or what the next step should be. It's kind of obscured. It's a bit of a unclear vision. But you also get this little sort of sneak preview. So, after finishing writing and colouring all these pages, it was time to start thinking about the binding. And originally, because I would thought I had plenty of time, I had all these ideas of experimental binding methods I wanted to try out. Um, I ditched all of them because I just literally ran out of time. I had no time to make any mistakes whatsoever when the binding was due. So I just thought, okay, this is going to be a single section binding, simple, clean, classical uh, binding, no fuss. Uh, Also, I had this silk book cloth lying in the studio that I bought in London a couple of years ago, and the colour matched perfectly. So I just thought, why not? I'll use the silk cloth. I have some regular book cloth Cialux in black on the spine, and that will be it. And also, again, I was sort of traveling back to Sweden, so I had to make the binding. I finished a book in Sweden and I have to make the binding here, and I don't really have any bookbinding tools, so I just brought with me the basics, pressing boards and, something heavy and some glue, and that was it. Um, Also, I wanted, when I sort of bound it, I thought, but I do want some gold on the book cover. And my idea was to gild that little thin line that you see. So I got all my gilding tools out when I got back to my studio, made a dummy book, tried to get the gilding to work. But for some reason, the silk cloth was really difficult to gild and get the line really, really thin and perfect. And it just didn't happen. And I thought, okay, I have to come up with some other idea. So I rummaged around a bit in my studio and found a thin golden thread. So it's actually a golden thread that I've glued down in between the black and the blue book cloth. I was a bit fiddly because usually I would have done that before I stuck the book inside. But this time around I had to sort of just make it work afterwards. Um, so yeah, and voila, here it is in the exhibition in California. And as I said, I was really amazed on the reception. I didn't expect anything at all. I sent it off and thought it would be one of those objects, disappear a little bit into an exhibition, but you never know. But before the exhibition even opened, I got a text message asking, "Can we buy the book?" I was like, "Is this a joke? Is this for real?" So I was really, really thrilled. And now it's in the Harrison collection. So I'm really, really happy with that. Um, yeah, and the exhibition is open until the 31st of August. I think Raoul said that as well. Just if you want to go and see it from in real life.
Yes, that's until the 31st of August.
Um, the paper is watercolor paper. The book is 215 times 130 millimeters big, so it's not really that big, it's quite small. It's Saunders Waterford watercolor paper and Hahnemühle and a Japanese paper. The blue paper you see there is Japanese, and I'm not sure what it's called. It's also been sitting in my drawers for years, so I tend to stack up on things when I see something I like, and then use it whenever I have a project that sort of fits the purpose, where it fits the purpose. So these are some spreads. And it's a single section binding, and of course you can hide the knot when you've sewn the book. You can hide the knot on the back, but I quite like to keep it visible. So in this book, I just left it visible in the middle. And I made a little film. Midway upon the journey of my life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Obscure, profound it was, and nebulous, so that by fixing on its depth my sight, nothing whatever I discerned therein, there in so far as I had power to hear, were lamentations none, but only sighs, that tremulous made everlasting air. Not yet had I reached the other side, when I had put myself within a wood that was not marked by any path whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. Beautiful book. Um, did anyone have any questions about the book? I'm sure everyone does. Materials, process. I wanted to confirm you must have used fairly heavy paper to do that, didn't you? What was the weight of that? That was Hahnemühle? Is that
Yeah. Um, Good question. I think it's oh my God. I think it's a 200, is it a 225 gram
oh,
thing around there?
okay, yeah. Because you were cutting holes in it. I mean, cutting sections out. So you would need something that was a little kind of heavy like that too, so that it would hold up to the holes for the cutting.
Well, it keeps better if the paper is slightly heavier. If it's really thin, it's no problem to cut it, but it's more delicate if you want to handle it afterwards and read it and I didn't know how the book was going to be on display, so I just thought, but maybe people will actually flick through it. Maybe it will be, in a bookcase. So but it you can handle it without have not well without being too worried.
Hmm. That was a lot of cutting you did. Really, that stencil, I was thinking, my God, that stencil, geez.
And
But
I
it's
just,
really useful because then you can reuse it for other purposes. So yeah, well, once you have it, you have it.
oh, it looked like your stencil tool, or not your stencil, your cutting tool has a really small edge on it or a really small blade. Is that a special cutting tool that is really good for cutting? I'm just amazed at the tiny little places that you cut um, to do it.
It's just a surgical scalpel. Just a normal one, not the sterilized ones, just a normal one. And the tape, I just put extra leather and around where the blade actually is fastened to the handle to avoid cutting my fingers. Because when I cut, I hold it as near to the paper as possible. So that's why it sort of looked a bit sort of like a homemade tool, but it's just a normal scalpel, like a doctor would use.
Yeah. Did you go through a number of blades in the process of doing it? I'm just
Not,
curious.
not really. One or two, maybe
Yeah.
two, three, perhaps. Not that I don't change them that often. I mean, it needs to be really sharp to make a precise cut, but I feel they last pretty well. So maybe I use two blades, two or three blades.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful book. I fell in love with it when we opened it up and logged it in and saw it. It just is extraordinary. And I'm so glad it's going to be available for us to go visit when we like. So,
Well, thank you. And I mean, I was so thrilled when I got the messages from you. I was just like, seriously? Because it
oh,
was so unexpected, but it's really inspiring and yeah, and I really appreciate all the good feedback.
yeah. So,
And it's really nice to know that it's going to stay there in the collection.
yeah. Well, it's certainly lovely for us. And I like Coliro colors myself, and it's just really inspiring to see the way that you mixed in use the blues and the kind of gold or tan colors together. They work so well with the dark and the light, actually, on the pages. So,
Yeah, I really like how the Kalira colors cover. And also it's just so easy to mix them when you want that sort of bit of a sparkle, but you don't necessarily want to use gold all the time. I think it's just perfect.
yeah.
And as I said, so easy to travel with because they just dry out and they're dry and you don't have to worry about sort of liquids in your handbag.
Uh, what was the problem with the gilding on the silk? Um,
I just couldn't get it to be as precise as I wanted it to be because the silk cloth is kind of, um, I mean, rough is perhaps not the right word, but it's got a bit of a texture. So it was really, really hard to make, and also because the black book cloth is different. It was really hard to make the line sort of perfect. It always ended up sort of bits of bumpy and not equal all the way. So I don't know. It just didn't. It could have looked fine on a different project, but just to me, it just didn't look right. It wasn't what I had in my head. So, and that was why I ended up using a thread instead in gold to get that sort of effect.
This is a perfect solution because it looks wonderful. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Love it. Beautiful.
thread looks really straight and precise. Yeah, looked really good from what I could see. Anne Van Hentenrijk had a question for you. Was it hard to fold the paper over the cuttings?
No, I did all the folding first and then I did all the cutting afterwards. So when uh, the book pages were already folded, so when I decided where to cut, I could make the decision sort of according to how it was folded, so I could avoid sort of fold cutting through a fold, if that made sense. So yeah, so I kind of avoided the problem of ending up with cutting in a fold. It's one of those things when you can I mean now I was lucky and the text also sort of added up, but it's one of those things when you are not bound by um sometimes when you get commissions you're sort of bound by a text having to be set in this and that or that way, or something being placed where you wouldn't normally place it. But when it's all sort of just your work, you can always just move things around and make it work and avoid the most problematic sort of things like cutting over a creased page, for example.
Yeah. Thank you.
Coral Roars, the editor of Alphabet, said that there will be some shots of different spreads of your book in the Kalligraphia article in Alphabet. That'll be next in the next issue.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I will
My
looking forward.
pleasure. I was glad to be able to photograph the different spreads the day that it was being installed, so that we could have a few different views in the magazine.
Well, that's oh, very cool. Very pleased to hear that. I'm really glad I made it because it's I've never sent anything to the Kalligraphia exhibition before, and I just thought, why not? You know, it's always good to have that little sort of push to create something for an exhibition. But when I sent it, I was kind of already planning on how to get it back to Norway. So I was just thrilled when when I got the text message from you, Meredith, when I thought you were sort of just pulling my leg. So
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, we're so grateful in Kalligraphia when people are willing to send things from afar, because it expands what we can offer to people here to see. And it's just, I mean, Andrea Wunderlich sent a gorgeous book also, and also with some cutting, right, Andrea?
Yeah.
The cutting and the pages. And we had one from Macau and one from Belgium. I think we had either 4 or 5 international.
There'll be multiple pages of spreads of Andrew's book also.
Ooh, wow, thank you. And I think the person from Belgium, that was Carrie, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because we were writing back and forth. And it's a thing, like Helene said, the easiest thing is to send a book. If you have a book art piece, because of the size and you have no glass and these things, but you still have a true piece of your art if you're into book art. So that's a good thing.
But I did have to laugh a bit though, because I was thinking that thing, and we discussed it beforehand, you know, a book is easier to send, and then I ended up sending, you know, with FedEx Express anyway. So he would
But I have to say, I think you sent me photos of yours because we were like talking about sending something, and I thought, wow, what a piece. And you can clearly see I mean, a lot of work that must have been. You immediately see, and boy, it's brilliant. Love it.
Well, I mean, as I said, I always underestimate things. I just think, no, I'll just paint these 5,000 little different color shades, and it will take me 10 minutes. 4 months later, I'm sort of still at it.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, I mean, now we say it's easier to send a book art piece, but I actually had in the same style of my book, because my book was the outcome of that mentee program of the Art of Letters with Dorothy Lim. But in the same style, I had a collage, and on my collage would have been the English text. So I would have rather more sent this because of the English of the language, but then said, well, that's huge and it should go in a frame. So that makes it difficult. And then still decided on my book that comes only in German. So yeah, sorry for that, but still, I just sent it. That
But
was it.
German also has this beautiful texture when you write it.
Yeah.
I really like sort of the texture it creates, and I just think that's really interesting when you work with different languages. Finnish also has its own sort of texture because they have all these vowels in a row. English looks different. The texture looks different than Norwegian. Norwegian as a language, as a written language, has a lot of double K's and G's and J's and things that collide, or letters that collide into each other. So it's a tricky language sometimes to make it look good. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it's a bit tricky.
I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about your process in beginning with a text like this one, which you said you had a connection with for decades, and how you came to interpret that text in the way you did.
It's a very good question. Usually I just work by intuition. So when I was reading or rereading Dante, I was just reading it and trying to sort of I tried to look for passages that I felt sort of just resonated with what I was looking for. And I can't really explain it. It's just that, you know, when you read something, sometimes you just think, oh my God, that's exactly what I want to say, or that really sort of fits the mood I'm in that moment, or, you know, the environment I'm working in. It kind of just hits you. And I can't always explain exactly why. So what I did was just sort of collecting passages and phrases and sentences I really just felt resonated with what I was after. And then when I'd read the whole book, I went through my notes again and picked out the sentences I thought would sort of, one, fit the project better, and also sentences that would work together. So the words from Dante are from several different chapters in the book, or places in the book. They're not from just one spot, they're from everywhere. And some of them I altered slightly, and I can't really remember any anymore. I have to sort of look them up again to point out where I altered something, to just make it sort of make the flow right. Not sure if that answered your question, or
No, I mean you had spoken about that at the very beginning. I guess my curiosity is stimulated by the idea of taking something, some text from the 14th century and then coming up with a design and an execution of that design with all these different media, including bookbinding. I mean, do you feel, are there other texts you would do that with? Was this in particular choice for that? I mean, it's just
I would do.
what stimulated my thought was when you showed at the beginning your English setting of the text in white on black, which, for me, I'm very accustomed to seeing text presented in that way, and then to go from that to what you produce, which is magnificent and very, very beautiful. I think we all responded to it that way when we saw it. So, I mean, it's just an interesting process to me. That's what I was hoping you'd tell us about, which I think you have.
Well, I think I would do the same with a different text. The reason I chose Dante was because it was a wish from the organizers of the exhibition in Belgium, because it was they celebrated that it was 250 years since he died. But the other thing that sort of fascinates me when working with words and text is the contrasts. If the contrast between if I say the abstract and the figurative. So you have the figurative text, which is the readable text, the sort of normal letter shapes as we know them, that you can easily read most of the time anyway. And then when you start sort of breaking the letter shapes down and looking at the interlinear spaces, looking at the sort of the shapes, the in-between shapes, you find something else. And especially, I mean, this being the BOB, when you write Gothic letter shapes or blacklettered letter shapes, you are always really, really aware of the negative spaces in between your lines, because it sort of creates the texture of the black letter shapes. And it's kind of what happens in all kinds of writing. And I also find it really interesting with the fact that you have that sort of slightly obscured way of writing its text. You can read it, but it's not really legible. So maybe when you've looked at it for a while, all of a sudden you recognize a word or two words, or you can figure out what it says. Or maybe it's enough to just know that it says something. Maybe you don't have to read it. And also the contrast between, or how shall I put it? Or to say it like this, when is it calligraphy and when isn't it calligraphy? When is it writing? When isn't it writing? When does it stop being writing? When does the line sort of go from just being a line to being a letter shape? Or is there no sort of distinction? So like sort of playing around with the shapes and the forms and the patterns and what the words actually creates. And when it's more abstract, you can sort of dive deeper into that. I'm not sure if any of this makes sense, but does it answer some of your some of your question?
Yes, yes, thank you.
It's,
Meredith.
it's kind of interesting to hear you say that, because as I think now about the things that speak to me in the book, it's also with the text. I mean, as the letter forms become more abstract, it is in some ways like walking through that wood where the letters could be, something suggestive of that. And the dark color that you used, the dark colors that you used in this book, I kind of was struck by the difference between what you did in 2022, which was black and red. And then in this, you have this black and blue and the shining, the luminous colors of it. And I find it really intriguing to think of the marriage of the text and how you carried it out.
Oh, thank you. But it's also one of those things I like when you work in series, when you kind of explore the same motif, because you will start out making one version, and then you think, maybe if I try this, that will make, give it a different dimension. And I'm actually really happy with the colors in this little book project, because I feel the lighter colors kind of reflects the brightness and lightness in life, and then you have the darker pages, which could be sort of more the dark side, or the more sort of obscure parts of life where you don't really know where you're heading. So yeah, it's kind of, but that journey when you start out with something and you sort of just, instead of just making it a one-off project, but you sort of just continue working on different versions and just explore what you can do with it. I just find that really interesting. And sometimes things just happen. It's not always really sort of, it's kind of subconscious what your decisions are. Sometimes it's just experience, and maybe it's just luck. Other times, I mean, you could think things through thoroughly, but it might not work as well as something that just happened by chance.
I had a question for Andrea Grimes, the San Francisco Public Library. How soon after the receipt of the piece did you actually see it? Was Andrea still there? And maybe she's sleeping. She's muted. Did anyone else have any questions?
Well, maybe Meredith can answer that. You were there, weren't you?
Well, I was, yeah, during intake. I think Andrea had collected the things that were mailed in, and she just brought them in the rare book room for us. And so people would unwrap something. And what you have to do for this exhibition, so that we can get the insurance from the library during the show, is we have to do a condition report on each piece. And so as the pieces come in, we have this whole process where we photograph them, and then we measure them, and we write the condition in which they arrive at the library. And we unwrapped your package, and we were paging through it and going, oh my, this is just so beautiful. And Yeah, and I at that point, I don't think Andrea had some of the pieces I think she will unwrap just to check that they're okay right as they come in. And I don't know whether she did that for yours or not, or whether the first time she saw it was when she walked into the rare book room and we said, "Hey, look at this." So she would have to answer.
I think she can't unmute her mic. I'm not sure if she's at work right now or not. But anyway, that's a interesting question. Something I'll have to ask next time I see her.
Um,
Well, anyway, the piece is on exhibit at the San Francisco Public Library on the 6th floor. And oh, Andrea said that she only saw the book once it was in the display case. And I guess that's what she just said in the chat. But it will be on display until August 31st, which is the end of the Kalligraphia exhibit at the San Francisco Public Library main branch. So I hope that you'll be able to take a look at it.
Louise Grunwald also has an extraordinarily beautiful piece in it. And let's see, I see Evelyn there who has a wonderful piece in the exhibit. And do I see anybody else? I see Joanne's iPhone, and Joanne has a lovely piece, and Sandy Collins also, and Carl. And Raul, you have wonderful Blackletter piece. So there is a lot to enjoy in the exhibition.
A little
So
hard to publish Raoul's.
Helene, I have a question for you. Do you feel like your baby left home and is living somewhere else now? Do you miss it?
Now that's one way of putting it. Actually, no, actually it feels really good because I know it's got a really good home and that other people can enjoy it. And yeah, sometimes it's kind of it's that weird feeling when a piece of art leaves the studio for an exhibition. But on the other hand, what's the point if all the art you create just stays in your studio?
Oh, that's a good
Because
attitude.
it's a lot of art, you know, when you've been creating for like 20 years. So I'm always just really, really happy when the pieces I find new homes. And also the feeling, I know that I have pieces in Germany, I have pieces in Spain, on the mainland, and in Mallorca. I have some pieces in Sweden and in Norway and throughout sort of, yeah, other parts of the world. So it's kind of a good feeling that your pieces sort of travel the world and stay there. So yeah, kind of my baby left home, but it's a good feeling. But I really wish I could pop across and see the exhibition. So I said to Raoul before well, earlier today, I'm sort of looking forward to lots more photographs and also maybe a virtual tour of this fantastic exhibition that I hear about.
yeah, we've been talking with the person who agreed to take the pictures of it, and he hasn't quite got it done yet, but when he does, we look forward to posting them. So
Are you talking about me?
no, talking about Paul.
Because I took lots of pictures for Alphabet, so
Photos of the
Of the exhibition cases.
oh, not the cases, no.
Yeah, see, this is
before we put 'em
the
in. I see. Okay, got it.
so
No, I really wish I could see it in person, but yeah, maybe next time.
Well, the Book Arts and Special Collections Department takes real good care of their pieces, so it's in good hands. And among many other beautiful pieces of calligraphy. So join us next month for the Blackletter Brunch. There's no presenter yet. If anyone would like to be a presenter next month, please let me know ASAP. But I'll see you all on Sunday, August 24th, for the next Blackletter Brunch. And thank you so much for joining us, and thank you very much to Helene Jenssen.
Well, thank you very much for organizing this, Raoul.
Yes.
And I'll try to make it on August 24th. But if someone happens to be in Stockholm that week, there's a letterpress exhibition, just mentioning it.
And which week? The August 24th?
Yeah, it opens on the 29th.
August
But I'll be in Stockholm from the 24th to mount things and get everything organized. So if anyone happens to be in Stockholm, it's where it happens that week.
Okay. It'll be a beautiful show. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. See you next month, and have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you, Raoul.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Raoul.